Welcome to Sweet Valley Diaries, where, say what you will about these vapid, soulless teens, every one of them reads the newspaper. Book number 39, Secret Admirer.
Who is Penny's secret love?
Hello, welcome to Sweet Valley Diaries, Gladiators. I am your host, Marissa Flaxbart. You know, me. I'm the one that's always the host. And with me today is Megan Collier. Hello, Megan.
Hello, Marissa.
So it's a thrill to have you here, not least because we are roommates, which means that I can actually have you here in person.
Yes.
This is a time we're recording only a few days after Los Angeles and the state of California is in a shelter-at-home edict. What are we calling it?
Decree.
Mayor Garcetti was like, this is not a suggestion. This is an order.
Yeah.
But they're also calling it, like, safe at home. You know, it's, like, friendly and hard at the same time.
An act of love was one of my favorite
yeah.
news. Yeah.
But what that means is that, like, the people that you are stuck with, you're super stuck with. And so it's a time of great gratitude for wonderful roommates. Who also are, like, sensible. I don't have to worry about going out and, like, licking poles and stuff.
Absolutely.
So thank you. Thanks so much from me to you. Just a little personal business up top for the listeners to hear. Officially, I'm thanking you for not being someone that licks poles.
Yes. You are quite welcome. It's not my style.
Not your style. Yeah, no, me neither.
Yeah.
Almost never. So, I am so thrilled to have you here for this book, Secret Admirer. And before we get into it too far, I'm curious about what your previous exposure to Sweet Valley High was, if any.
I don't think I've had any exposure to Sweet Valley High. I think I read, like, the Boxcar Kids. Like, I think those were, like, the serials that I read as a kid. So
Sure.
Sweet Valley High was not one of my my go-tos.
Had you heard of it?
Yeah.
Before
I had, but
okay.
unfamiliar with the world, like, didn't know
Sure.
the, like, main characters or anything. So.
Yeah. Well, in this book, I think it was probably, I should check. It's going to be 87, 88 at this point that this book came out. So it was also, I mean, the books were all republished, but it's earlier than sort of like our childhood reading years would have been.
Yeah. I would have been one. So.
What does it say? 87?
87, yeah.
87, okay. Still stuck in 1987 for a little while longer. And the twins are stuck in whatever year it is forever, because time never proceeds. And there was actually a moment in this book where the phrase, time had no meaning whatsoever appears. And I appreciated that. It was describing Jessica's inability to kind of keep track of a schedule or anything. But still, just for that fleeting moment, I was like, see, I'm telling you people.
I love that. So they've always been juniors.
They've always been juniors.
I'm not sure if they're juniors.
Yeah, they're juniors.
Yeah, okay.
Mm-hmm, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about the cover. Because you had opinions about the cover of Secret Admirer from the moment I first handed you the book.
I love this cover. So Penny is looking, like, really down to business. She's, like, checking her watch and looking very queer. Like, this outfit, I feel like, would be at, you know, all the queer dance nights around LA currently.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah,
especially
just like
on the
high-waisted pant, like a cute blouse. Really, like, short cropped hair. You know, she's just, like, an intellectual. She's down to business.
Nice, like, black leather watch band.
Absolutely, yep.
And, like, a little bit pushed up her wrist a little bit. But so Penny, we learn in the book that Penny Ayala, who, Gladiators, Penny has come up in passing before, so she's not exactly a minor character, but she's never had her own book. She is the editor of the Oracle, the Sweet Valley High newspaper. So we know how much work it takes to just be a mere writer or like sports photographer for the Oracle. So you can only imagine how much work and how significant it is to be the editor of this very prestigious high school newspaper. But we learn in the course of the book that I guess she's standing outside of a bookstore at the mall in this moment.
Yes.
And she's looking at her watch thinking, where is this person I'm supposed to meet?
Yeah.
Also wearing a red headband, very important. And yeah, cute, short hair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's got a little blush on her cheeks, looking
Yes.
a little, yeah.
Recently put on makeup for
Yes.
possibly the first time.
A little
Not that
made
it
up and more
shows.
embarrassed, yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of both of them. There's a lot of flushing and blush for the first time
Yes.
for Penny in
Yes.
this book. So it's a great cover. I love it. I'm glad you like it too. So what at the very beginning of the book, we find Elizabeth and Penny working in the newspaper office.
So it's been a week. I was like, what?
We're operating on different schedules here.
Yeah.
I just finished the book and Megan read it a week ago.
Yeah.
So the reason why I guess the main reason why I think it's interesting to think about this scene, or what I want to hear from you, is because there's this dynamic between Elizabeth and Penny. So reading this book from trying to think of what someone who had never read one of these books would be getting out of it in the year 2020, I was just noticing, I don't know, sort of like a flirtatious energy between Penny and Elizabeth.
Yes. Penny is, my initial reading of this is that Penny is real gay. Very, very queer vibes, interesting kind of triangulation of desire between, Penny and Elizabeth, as, Elizabeth is kind of being a mentor and, telling Penny how to, get the boys, and Penny's kind of expressing very little interest and, being a little shy, but also just, has too many other things to worry about.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I have a few quotes from the book that we can get into that will sort of support this. I didn't say anything about this when I was first introducing you, Megan. We were focusing on our roommate relationship, but you have a bit of a background in queer studies, don't you?
Queer studies, sociology. Yeah. A little bit of both. Yeah.
So I think that it is a super fun thing about having this podcast, looking back through a modern lens at this 1980s text to think about what is it, the ways in which we can read it and read between the lines. And when you start looking at it through a certain lens, you do start noticing these things.
Yeah.
And since you read the book a week before me, I was already primed a little bit to be looking for these things. And so,
what's happening here?
Penny is kind of laughing and, teasing Elizabeth about how hardworking she is. And Elizabeth is teasing her right back, Elizabeth says, "If anyone knew what a slave driver you are, they'd never sign up for this dumb old newspaper."
I love it. Yeah.
It's just but so the big thing that's happening, and right after this is when the quote that I mentioned earlier, literally it is, "Time was completely meaningless."
Oh, yeah.
To Jessica.
I love that.
So the big thing that's happening, what's going on in the Oracle office, the hot thing in the Oracle right now, was teased in the previous episode, the previous book, and it is that the Oracle is going to have a personals column. And Lynn Henry, who was pulled from the recesses of history of this series, just to be given another job for some reason, was asked to be the person who's sorting through these personals. So she has this pile of initial letters. She's going to give people numbers, and they're going to, so it's anonymous sort of, but anybody that places a personal ad in the school newspaper will have a little number, and people can write to the number. But they also all have pseudonyms that they use and stuff too, which we'll come across. So I'm going to read what Lynn says. "I already read some of them, and I can tell there are a lot of joke ads, people who aren't really serious. If there's room, I'll run some of them, but at first I'm just going to pick the ones that are serious." "What do you mean joke ads?" asked Elizabeth. Lynn rested her head on one hand and poked a finger at the pile in front of her. "Such as, gorgeous British rock star looking for fans. Beautiful girls, send pictures and all your dreams will come true." "Give me a break," Penny laughed and shook her head. "Well, some of them are funny but serious," Lynn added, "so those will go in." "I can't wait to read them," Elizabeth said. Sitting back at her desk, Penny picked up her red pencil and began editing an article. "Thinking about checking some of them out?" "Hardly," Elizabeth smiled and shook her head as she watched Lynn stacking the forms in a pile. She had a prize in Geoffrey French, and she knew it. He was warm, caring, and excitingly handsome. No, she wasn't interested in checking some of them out. "But how about you, Pen?" As soon as the words were out, Elizabeth realized she had made a mistake. Penny blushed, and the girl turned her face back to the article. "Don't be silly, Liz. You know I'm not into parties and things like that." Lynn looked down with a frown to meet Elizabeth's worried gaze. A note of tension had entered the air. For some reason, Penny Ayala didn't date anyone, even on a casual basis. Elizabeth had often wondered about it, but had put it down to Penny's busy academic and extracurricular schedule. But Penny's quick blush suggested that perhaps it wasn't entirely her choice.
Penny, you gay. I love ya.
Listeners, Megan is like just sort of shaking in silent laughter in my peripheral vision the whole time I'm reading the book.
Like,
yeah, so right off the bat, it's like, okay.
Yeah, just Penny's a late bloomer, you know? Yeah. Can't quite figure out her desire. It's like, you know, not interested in parties.
Right.
Yeah.
That does seem like it could read as a euphemism. Now, just to get out of this, I do have to say that if we're not doing a queer reading of the book, and if we kind of go with what the book hands us, like, I can actually really personally relate to Penny in a lot of ways.
Yes.
But not so much in the blushing at the mere mention of placing a personal ad, but some of the other stuff that comes out is definitely relatable to me as a straight woman, although not that it really matters, but I think could be relatable to anybody.
Absolutely. A bookish teen or teen not interested in ins and outs of...
Or just like, because what comes out about Penny is that her main thing is that she doesn't see herself as the kind of girl that boys could be attractive to. And there are some times when she phrases, or the book phrases it that way, where it super sounds like, Penny, you're gay. Like, maybe what you're really trying to say is that you don't like boys.
Yeah.
But there is also, I mean, I can definitely relate to the idea of like, I think I'm cool. Actually, there's a line in my play, like, I think I'm cool, but boys don't seem to, is something that I have thought or said aloud a lot of times. I mean, I have an easy time being friends with boys, but I can relate to the idea of, like, I am not interested in being with someone who doesn't like smart girls, you know, because I wouldn't pretend to be something that I wasn't to interest a guy that has that sort of values set, you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Anyway, I feel kind of like I should say, like, obviously, like, it's the 21st century. Why would any of us do that?
Yeah.
Right after this, we get a Collins Watch 2020. So Mr. Collins...
Doesn't he try to dance with one of them at the end?
Sort of?
Yeah. I was like, is that like normal?
A weird thing of, like, he says he's going to, but then it seems like he was joking. So we keep an eye here on Sweet Valley Diaries on Mr. Collins and how hot he is, and also just, like, how is he comporting himself.
Okay.
Because many guest readers like yourself noticed Mr. Collins and thought, this seems problematic.
Yeah.
And I have been a staunch defender of Mr. Collins, so I'm part of Collins Watch 2020 is me keeping a watchful eye on Mr. Collins, like, trying to check myself.
Perfect.
So I'm going to go ahead and read this passage as well, because it's really one of the purest Collins watches, I feel like, that we've had in terms of the full picture of, like, why this is problematic, and then why in the end he sort of, like, he gets away with it. And how are the best writers in Sweet Valley? Came a cheerful male voice. The three girls looked up as Roger Collins entered the office. The handsome, strawberry blonde English teacher was one of Sweet Valley High's favorites because of his relaxed and friendly attitude. He was a demanding teacher, but a fair one, and he gave his time generously as faculty advisor to the newspaper. He set a bundle of galley proofs down on Penny's desk and looked around. Something going on here? Just talking, Penny said with an offhand shrug. Thanks for picking these up. Sure, no problem. Say, Liz, I've got something for your column. Mr. Collins perched on the edge of a table and crossed his arms. A certain English teacher, who shall remain nameless at this time, has been asked by the Student Council Dance Committee to act as chaperone for the upcoming 40s night Swing Fling. That's great, Is he going to agree? Elizabeth's eyes danced as she smiled up at him. That depends on whether a certain French teacher, who shall also remain nameless, would like to join him. Mr. Collins could be talking about only one person, and all three girls knew who that was. Nora Dalton, the pretty young French teacher. The two were a popular couple at Sweet Valley High, and almost every girl at school alternated between fierce envy and vicarious romantic bliss when it came to Nora Dalton. And that reminds me, he went on as he jumped down, I expect to see you ladies there. I plan on jitterbugging with all three of you. Elizabeth and Lynn laughingly agreed, and Mr. Collins collected some books and left the office. So he's like flirting with them,
Yeah.
but I think only because he's hot, and so he can't help himself.
And like a wholesome flirting.
Like everything he says comes out as a flirt because the girls are in love with him,
Yeah.
but he's talking about his girlfriend. We haven't heard about Mr. Collins and Nora Dalton for a little while, so it's nice to have a resurfacing of their relationship.
Yeah.
Also, we find out soon that Jean West and Tom McKay are still together. You don't have to worry about that.
I was like,
That's not important
I do
to the
not
story.
remember that.
But basically, it's such torture. Poor Penny, poor single Penny. Every couple that has ever existed in the history of Sweet Valley High seems to be trotted out. Like, Maria and Winston they're a popular couple. Sally Larson and Mark Riley, I think is his name. They got together a few books ago. Like they're together. Everybody's paired up.
Yep.
So
yep. Except for poor old Penny.
Yeah.
Just yeah.
And the girls who don't want to have a steady boyfriend, like Jessica and Lila, which will come up. One more thing. So Elizabeth, we got the sense that Elizabeth was kind of worried about Penny, and she seemed sad. Penny, she's just not putting herself out there or whatever.
Yeah.
Things that friends think. And she says, Penny, you can kill me if this is insulting, but you should learn how to lighten up a little around guys. Give them a chance to see how fun you are. Penny's face was impassive, and Elizabeth felt like kicking herself. She stopped and put her hand on Penny's arm. I'm sorry. For a moment, Penny didn't speak. Her hazel eyes were clouded, as if she were looking at something far away. Then her face brightened in a warm smile. Liz, I'm not mad at you. Hey, I know it's my own fault I turned boys off. They just don't like serious students, I guess. And frankly, I just can't see pretending to be something I'm not just to snag one.
I love this scene.
Yes.
I love this scene.
So chapter 1 is over and Megan is thinking...
Just, lovely gentle gazes between Elizabeth and Penny.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, just, a tender touch on the arm. It's perfect. It's really setting up a good scene.
Yeah.
A good scene for us here.
So that's like the A story. And then we transition and be introduced to the B story, which these stories are pretty nicely knit together because it's all about using the personal ads and how the different people in Sweet Valley manipulate the system.
Yes.
Jessica and Lila are sitting on the beach thinking about how, like, all of the boys of Sweet Valley are too jejune for them. Any first impressions of Jessica Wakefield and Lila Fowler?
Great question. Yeah, I mean, just like such teens, just like really I don't know, trying to act more mature than they are, and being like.
That's a good point. It is such a teenager move to be like, I'm too mature for these boys, when really, like, they get so excited about what the college boys might offer, but they don't fully understand it, or they don't seem to. They have this whole plot that they concoct together. Jessica looks around and she sees all these boys on the beach, and she's just like, none of these boys are mature enough. And what are we going to do? How are we going to meet older boys? And Jessica thinks, back to this new dating service, this new personal service. And she proposes to Lila that they can place ads. Jessica knew if she voiced the idea that had been fermenting in her mind for the past week, Lila would probably throw a fit. But Lila was always throwing fits, so what difference would one more make? I think we should use the personal ads in the Oracle. What? That is the grossest idea you've ever had, Jessica Wakefield. Lila's voice was dripping with scorn, and she sat up to give her friend a withering glance. Only losers take out personal ads, and only losers answer them. Jessica rolled her blue-green eyes. For your information, Lila, personal ads are not what they used to be. I read this article in Ingenue that said more and more singles use them to meet people because of the pressures of life these days. Lots of people don't have time to go cruising around, so they just take out an ad to say exactly what they're looking for and then pick out the best replies. Lila maintained a stony silence. It's the best way to meet people now, Jessica went on confidently. They had testimonials and pictures of couples who had met through the ads, and believe me, these people were not losers. Well, if you're so smart, how do you expect to meet college boys with an ad in a high school newspaper? An excellent point. Jessica gave Lila a satisfied smile. I just happen to know someone in college who gets copies of our paper, and that someone always has tons of good-looking friends in his room.
Yeah, I know. I was like, what? I was like, what? I was like, oh, sure. This is so she's fun plot point. But
yeah. So she's talking about her brother Stephen. Mm-hmm. It is very interesting to think about Stephen Wakefield always having good-looking guys in his room.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Has he ever been in high school with them, or he's always been in college?
He's always been in college, like a freshman in college.
Okay.
And he's dating this girl who is also a junior, like Jessica's friend Kara.
Got it. Meaningless time. Just...
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah, so that's what they do. They place ads, and then Elizabeth and Enid are able to convince Penny to place an ad herself. Mm-hmm. Like, that's basically, there's a scene on the beach, and there's this moment where, Penny approaches Elizabeth and Enid, and, Enid has this guy that she is dating now, whose name is Hugh Grayson.
Ooh. You're right. Everyone is couple.
Yeah, so even Enid, who hasn't had a boyfriend for a while, has this new guy that she's seeing. We don't know much about him. He goes to Big Mesa. So
this is the other high school?
It's another high school that gets mentioned whenever they need another high school to get mentioned.
Perfect.
And so when Penny comes over, and then she's like happily chatting with Liz and Enid. Mm-hmm. And then the two boys show up. And
Penny has to go.
Yeah.
She gets all flustered.
Right.
Can't. Does Jeffrey French show up in that moment?
Jeffrey French, that's Elizabeth's boyfriend. Okay. Yeah. Which again, it's hard not to read it as, Penny is so happily talking to Elizabeth and like, oh, hi, Enid. And then Jeffrey comes over and he's like, hello, ladies. And Penny's like, oh, this guy again.
Yeah. Can we talk I'm so curious how Jeffrey comes over and is like covered in sweat. Is that this moment? Oh, yeah. Like Jeffrey picked up a towel and rubbed drops of salt water from his muscular arms. Is this like a common, like, how do they talk about bodies in the book?
I think that that's such a good example of these sort of fleeting glimpses of like, hot bods. So I think my opinion of it is that the books sort of dip their toes into being teen romance novels for like a few seconds. And particularly, I think we have seen since Jeffrey French appeared maybe like 6 or 7 books ago, that everything between Jeffrey and Elizabeth is kind of like that. Okay. Like Jeffrey says things to Elizabeth huskily a lot. Yes. And even I, reading these books, I'm like, damn, this is romantic,
Hey.
Yeah.
Do any of them have sex?
No.
Is that's like never a plot point that we...
Nope.
Okay.
No. We often say,
when I was like...
Gladiators can probably say it along with me now, but we often say on Sweet Valley Diaries that the books use the word sexy a lot, but never the word sex.
Yeah.
There was a book a couple of books ago where the Alice Wakefield, the twins' mother, like off camera, we can go like off the page. Yeah, apparently had a sit down conversation with the girls, asking them which one of them was in trouble because she thought that maybe one of them was pregnant based on things that they were saying. And even that happening at all was just like, oh my goodness. Like the idea that the mother could acknowledge that possibly they were having sex was like, oh wow, that's new. But the girls also were like mortified. So that's kind of where it's at. Yeah. But it's a really good question because listen to some of the things that like the ads, the ads that they place.
Yeah. So I wrote down one, the Paulo's, is that his name?
Oh, the guy Paolo. Yeah, his response.
His letter.
Let's definitely get to that. Okay. Oh my gosh! But before we get to that, let me read the letters that Lila and Jessica place in the newspaper.
Excellent.
Listeners, try to guess which one of these is Lila and which one is Jessica. Glamorous, sophisticated, mature high school girl looking for someone with the right stuff. I like fast cars, caviar, and the Caribbean. Do I want to say Caribbean?
I think either one were, right? Right.
Don't talk to me about commitment. I'm looking for excitement, not a bridge partner. If you can keep up with me, I want you. Kids need not reply. In italics. And number 2. Are you devastatingly handsome? Are you romantic and wild? Do you like girls who aren't afraid of danger? Are you the type of guy who goes for what he wants? Are you in college? Sorry.
The sign of maturity.
Are you in college? If you answered yes to all the above questions, drop me a line. I've been looking for you. So I could make that my dating profile.
Yeah,
what do you think?
it's perfect. I think it would really go far on Tinder.
Are you in college?
Yeah.
Okay. So you probably have guessed it, listeners. The first one was Lila. The second one was Jessica. And they get responses. So we might as well talk about it, because that is separate for a little while, totally from the Penny plotline.
Yeah.
So yeah, the first response that they set up a bet. It's important to say they set up a bet, and whoever gets the better guy, like the hotter catch from their ad, wins the bet. There's no stakes right now, and so Jessica's really excited when she gets this letter from someone named Paolo. You want to read it?
Sure. Dear Miss Excitement, I'm no stranger to boasting, but I get the feeling you know how to put your money where your mouth is. You definitely sound like dynamite about to go off, and I want to be there for the explosion, even if it means getting a little singed. The girls I've met at college are nothing compared with someone like you. I like slow dancing and romantic dinners, and I like dessert, too. Drop me a line. I think we should get together, mi amore.
Yeah. And it says, what does it say about Jessica? The unmistakable promise in the word dessert sent a thrill of anticipation running up and down her spine. It's like Jessica knows what this means, you know? Which is weird, because it's like she knows, but does she know?
Yeah, yeah.
I get the sense that she's one of these, I don't know, maybe I'm totally being naive, but no, I think that the book writes her as naive. It's like she's got this very innocent perspective on what sex even is. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But rereading it now, or hearing you reread this letter, it seems like maybe Paolo is being literal about that. Like I said ew out loud when it said the thing about explosive.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, I want to be there when it explodes or whatever.
Right, right. Or yeah. Be there for the explosion. Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, so should we just talk about that? Because even though that'll sort of take us through to the end of the B story, then we can go back and consider what's going on with Penny.
I was shocked by the way this played out, but you know, this is my first Sweet Valley.
This is really twisting and turning, but the initial date, I'm no Jessica apologist, and I'm not a huge fan of her, but she has her moments, and this was one where I was like, this is unforgivable. Like, the thoughts this book puts in this girl's head.
Yeah. I thought that this was going to be a learning moment.
Yeah.
Like, I thought it was going to come back at the end and, like, you know, she was going to end up going to the dance with Paolo, but no.
That would have been great.
Yeah, but I realized that it was just supposed to be, like, kind of a laugh and, look how this can go wrong. And also that she, like, you know, fakes illness, like disability as like, her out.
Jessica is that's reprehensible as well, but Jessica is really, really painting this picture in her head of this like European guy. He's Italian. You know, his name is Paolo. He says mi amore. She's really excited about the prospect of Paolo. And when she opens the door to go out on a date, she is horrified to discover that the young man standing in front of her is fat.
I guess she couldn't stand to be around fat people.
Yeah. Never in her life had Jessica ever dated anyone who wasn't handsome and slim. And now she was going out with someone fat. She couldn't go through with it. What if someone saw her with him? Her reputation would be ruined. What if Lila found out? She would never let Jessica forget it in 10 million years. Ew. Gross. It's so gross. And she does literally think, like, could she help it that she couldn't stand to be around fat people? It's like, what? I'm just like, this is not good audio, but I'm just like agape. I'm just dumbfounded. It's so hateful. And, I mean, the only sense that she gets her comeuppance for this is that her dream date turns out to not really be a dream date. One thing that I do think is a little bit nuanced and interesting, and maybe I'm grasping at straws here, is that even Jessica has to acknowledge that she does find Paolo interesting.
Yeah.
That he's taken her on a great date that was exactly the date that she wanted, other than the person that she was with. So they're on the date, and here's Jessica's thought process. What was she going to do? She suddenly felt like throwing up. That would be a pretty spectacular solution. Then she had a brilliant idea. I've been sort of an invalid all my life, she lied, the words coming easily now that she knew what course to take. You're kidding, but you look so healthy. Oh? Well, looks can be deceiving, I guess. Anyway, I get these terrible headaches. I had a CAT scan yesterday, in fact. I'll know in a few days whether it's... She broke off dramatically and tried to look brave. Paolo froze with a breadstick halfway to his mouth. Whether it's... Jessica affected a careless shrug. But I like to ignore the pain when I can. Life is just too short. Paolo was obviously moved. Jessica, I had no idea what you must go through. But you're okay right now, aren't you? Jessica allowed the briefest hesitation to hang in the air. Oh, yes. Yes, I'm okay. Her voice dropped and she lowered her eyes to her lap. You're so brave. I can't tell you how much I admire you, Jessica. You're really remarkable. Jessica ducked her head a little lower to hide a smile. Once she got going, she was pretty remarkable. A few more minutes of this and she'd be out of that restaurant. Paolo would never know what hit him. No, I'm not really, she whispered. She looked up and gave him a dazzling smile. The slightest flicker of pain crossed her face. He was instantly alert. Are you sure you're feeling okay? Paolo, A picture of confusion, Jessica shook her head. I just wanted to have fun like any normal girl. For once, instead of staying home and taking medicines and... She closed her eyes and gasped, raising a trembling hand to her forehead. She wondered briefly if conjuring up a few tears would be going a little too far. Throwing his napkin down, Paolo jumped to his feet and took her arm. Come on, Jessica, don't do this to yourself. Let me take you home. No. She stood up, looking as reluctant as possible. Well, I guess maybe you should. I'm so sorry, though, Paolo. All those things I said, I just wanted... Don't worry about it, really. I'm a stupid jerk for not noticing earlier that you didn't feel well. When you answered the door, you looked, well, kind of dazed. Dazed is not the word, thought Jessica.
Paolo, what a gentleman.
He is.
Yeah.
And she thinks, she frowns a little as a little voice inside her tells her she just played a mean trick on a polite, friendly, and interesting boy. Yeah, so, but she ignored the voice. She couldn't help herself if she couldn't stand to be around fat people. So that's this book. So I hate Jessica again. Sorry, gladiators. She's the worst. Yeah. But she does have another date with a very sexy man named John Carger.
Krager? Carger? Carger. Yeah. I misread that every time. Carger.
Yeah. And with a K. And he's very sexy.
Yeah. I loved this. I mean, right, obviously this is like, but immediately I was like, he's a sociologist. Like, of course. I was like,
love it.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
I was like, yeah, of course. And this is some unethical and very funny. Like, yeah, he's curious and asking a lot of questions. Right. He's a good interviewer. He knows.
He sends a picture too. So Jessica is like, for a second, she's like, no more personal ads. And then a picture falls out, and he's a sexy, like, blonde guy, and he's got glasses, he's studious, and Jessica falls for it, and he asks her so many questions.
Yeah, he's very interested.
Yeah.
Good with those probes,
And she makes herself sound really boring, I feel like.
Yeah.
She's just like, I like to do exciting things and have excitement, which, I mean... would be great, except she doesn't seem like she names very many specific things.
No, yeah,
except she lists a bunch of schemes that she pulled.
Does she?
She says, like, there was this one time that I brought a puppy home and hid it in our house for my parents.
These are, like, previous books.
Books that she names. Yeah,
that's funny.
Yeah, so he doesn't kiss her goodnight, which is a little bit disappointing, but he's so clearly in love with her, she thinks.
Absolutely. Really interested, you know? Yeah. Yeah, she's the center of attention.
Yeah, so she writes it off like he's just a real gentleman. And that happens a few times, But still she's like telling Lila, I definitely won this bet. But they haven't figured out the details of like how they're going to decide. And Lila is also sure she won the bet. So, and all the cheerleaders get in on it, all their friends, like they're going to judge. And then the loser has to go alone to the big dance at the end of the book, the swing fling. And the winner will take her date.
Yeah.
Important to note that both of these girls already have dates to the swing fling, but they're just like, wouldn't you rather go with a college boy?
Oh, he is the desired. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
It's like I didn't quite
So
remember
both
that.
of them preemptively, without telling anybody, they preemptively dump their dates to the swing fling, their high school dates, because they're sure that they're each individually so sure that they're going to win and have the man that's deemed the better catch. And they're both right. They're both wrong. It's a tie. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, they're both convinced they can. He said he can't go, but they're going to convince him anyway.
Right. So he's like, "Come meet me at this beach rock concert. I'll be there. Some friends are going to be there, and I'll see you there."
And his lab partner.
Yeah, and his lab partner.
Or just his partner.
His study partner, his research partner. Okay. That's what it is. Research partner.
Yeah.
What was his end game here?
He was just like a unethical researcher.
Right.
He was not following appropriate protocol in terms of consent.
So all the girls are at the beach. Yeah, he didn't get any
IRB
consent
approval.
forms signed.
Yeah.
He didn't do a debrief.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the closest thing to a debrief happens here. So this is toward the end of the book. All of our cheerleaders are at the beach. And Lila and Jessica, they're like watching just because they're going to be the judges of who won. And here's what happens. Girls of all types and sizes were clamoring around the still hidden boy, and Lila was standing on the outskirts of the group, her face chalky white. A gap opened up in the crowd, and Jessica met John Carger's gaze with a shocked gasp. "Hey, Jessica," John shouted happily. "Hi." Standing next to him was a stunning redhead. "Girls, this is Faye, my partner on my sociology project, and my girlfriend," he added, giving Faye an adoring smile. So he seems just totally clueless. He seems
totally
clueless.
Yeah.
Stunned, speechless, Jessica stared at Lila, whose jaw was clenched in anger. Their eyes met, and Jessica raised her eyebrows as high as they would go. Had they both been dating the same guy? And for that matter, had all these other girls been dating him too? "Just what is going on here?" a pudgy blonde girl choked out. "I thought we had a date, John." "What? He has a date with me," another girl exclaimed indignantly. Faye shook her head with an amused chuckle. "I'm afraid you're both wrong." But John appeared concerned. "I'm sorry. I hope I didn't give you the impression." "What are you trying to say?" came another indignant voice. "I was doing research for my sociology project." "Research?" echoed an infuriated brunette. He nodded emphatically, his face lighting with eagerness. "Yes, you see, I wanted to see how people presented themselves in personal ads and what they thought was appealing about themselves. So I answered all your ads." Jessica gulped. He answered ads regardless of what they said. Which that's part of the bet, is like whose ad brings in the better catch. Whose like wording. One girl let out a wail. "But John, I thought you really liked me." He turned crimson and began stammering. Apparently, the serious-minded John Carger wasn't aware of the effects of his flattering, probing questions, or the effects of his romantic brown eyes. "I never met... I hope you didn't think..." His voice trailed off, and he stared back mutely at all the pairs of angry, humiliated eyes focused on him. He swallowed audibly. "Oh no." Jessica groaned. "Oh, brother." Faye let out a peal of laughter. "I knew this would happen, John. I told you."
Faye, part of the problem. Also part of the problem.
I know, what a bitch. Faye. Yeah. I told you these girls would fall in love with you.
Like, what?
I told you this was unethical, John.
What?
Like,
John breaking hearts left and right.
So bad.
Yeah.
Really, really bad.
Yeah. It's like quite the charmer, but clueless charmer.
You're so right, though, that I also was thinking the same thing. Like, wouldn't it be a real moment of growth if Jessica then decided to invite Paolo to the dance?
Yeah.
Because, hey, he was nice, and she felt bad about what she did to him. That's not what
It
happened.
didn't happen. Didn't happen. So she went with second date, the one that she then... Did
She went with some other guy. They both... Lila and Jessica are both declared like they both won, basically.
Yeah.
Rather than both losers that both have to stay home or go to the dance solo, which is what should have happened.
Okay.
Because clearly they're both losers. Much bigger losers than anody else placing personal ads.
Yes.
But they both go to the dance with college boys that they meet at that beach rock concert.
Okay, thank you. That's right. Yeah.
So they do not learn anything other than that John Carger sucks.
Yeah. He sucks. He's a little clueless.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't believe they met new college boys. So they white girls winning in the end.
Oh my gosh,
presumably, presumably white. We don't know.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
We do know with
Jessica,
those particular girls
yeah.
because Lila too, we know is white.
Okay,
they're just at least in these books she is.
Yeah.
We have been talking so much about them, but the main story, of course, is Penny.
Yes,
Penny Ayala, and what happens with her. And you know what? We've been talking a lot about boys. We talked about John Carger. We talked about Hugh Grayson a little bit, but I think that we need to go into the part of the podcast where we talk about boys.
Excellent.
Who's a beautiful boy, who's a beautiful boys. I'm in danger of losing my head.
There's a boy that popped up in the previous book. His name is Kirk Anderson.
Oh, Kirk. Yeah. What a bro.
Kirk, he sucks.
Yeah.
And here is an intro to Kirk. Do you know anything about that new guy, Kirk Anderson? He's pretty hot looking. Yeah, well, that's about all he has going for him, Jessica replied. That was Lila that said that. His personality rates a 0. And Jessica hates Kirk. He's got jet black hair, an athletic build, striking blue eyes. He's very hot looking. But he sucks. He's really conceited. And Jessica spots this other guy whose name is Neil Freemount, like hanging out with him, and thinks, oh, I would have thought that Neil would be disapproving. Because Jessica and Neil have this relationship where, it's described in the book as more of a friendship. She sees him as more of a friend than a boyfriend. So it's always been he's always been this guy that's mentioned in passing as a guy that Jessica dates sometimes.
Okay.
But it has this interesting thing where it describes that he was a very nice-looking guy and a formidable opponent on the tennis court, 2 qualities Jessica liked a lot in her dates. But he had always remained more of a friend than a boyfriend. But she had sensed a serious side to Neil, too, a side that sometimes seemed to disapprove of her carefree habits. He didn't seem like the kind of guy to be hanging around Kirk Anderson, she thought. So...
Do Jessica and Kirk ever get together?
I don't remember.
I feel like they are meant for each other.
I know, right?
Yeah, they're both very shallow and really concerned with everyone else.
We've got Kirk Anderson, we've got Neil Freemount, who becomes very important, and they are involved with these other guys who I have never heard of before, whose names are Chad Tickner.
Oh, Chad, right.
And Michael... Oh, no. Well, there's somebody named Michael. I wonder if that's Michael who used to date Maria. But I don't remember. But Chad Tickner and Ron Reese. So we don't get a description of them, sadly.
Cool.
But yeah, those boys are hanging around with Kirk. And basically, remember, this is going back several minutes now, but that Elizabeth and Enid had convinced Penny to write a personal ad. She sits right down on the beach, breaks out her pencil, and starts writing right away. And she writes this personal ad that is kind of a joke, but she is convinced that it will, catch the sort of guy that she's looking for. He'll have a sense of humor. He'll be, well-read. He'll be a smart guy. I'm going to read it. Or do you want to read it? If you can find it?
Sure, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's right at the end of chapter 2.
Okay. Hook-nosed hunchback seeks kindred spirit. The ideal candidate will have a doctorate in Australian theology, love caves, speak Urdu. If you're looking for a girl who giggles, don't bother to respond. I'm strictly the guffaw type. Junior or senior would do just fine.
Are you in college?
Yeah.
No. Are you a junior
boy?
or a senior? Yeah. So it's just a sweet little, kind of innocuous, jokey thing.
Yeah.
But she refers to herself as a hook-nosed hunchback. I think she's really I don't want my appearance to be any part of this.
Yeah. No, she's cute.
She is cute.
Yeah.
She does not believe that she's cute.
Yeah.
Elizabeth keeps trying to tell her, which is also complicates matters a little bit.
Yeah.
But
The tender touch.
yeah, right. But so Kirk reads this in the paper and is like, "Oh, this is hilarious, this ad. Like, let's mess with her," you know? So the boys concoct this plan that they're going to write letters, and Neil is the one who does most of the writing. And the letters start going back and forth. All these asshole boys read Penny's letters and laugh. Meanwhile, Neil is like falling in love with these letters because what he's writing is true. Like, they're not. I think all the other boys think that something fake is happening.
Yeah.
But Neil is just being like honestly responding to the letters.
Yeah. It's very cute.
Yeah.
Jamie. Neil adds Jamie.
Yeah, he pretends that his name is Jamie because they all have pseudonyms. So I don't know why he didn't pick like who wrote Hunchback of Notre Dame? Hugo.
Oh.
He should have said his name was Hugo.
I like that better. Yeah.
Right? Why
Yeah.
is it Jamie?
Yeah, I don't know. Just Jamie.
You know, so she's excited, and
Gender neutral.
Elizabeth is excited, and Enid is excited, and they're all in on this together. And finally, the boys like goad Neil into writing that like they should meet. Mm-hmm. And I feel like Neil's reaction to that kind of sums up like what's going on in Neil's head. Neil dropped his racket and sat on one of the benches, composing the letter in his mind. Then he pulled a pen out of his pocket and began to write. Dear Q, every time I get another letter from you, I'm more and more convinced we should get together. I think it's time we met in person, don't you? If you want to meet me as much as I want to meet you, wait outside the bookstore in the mall at 4 o'clock on Friday, and wear something red so I'll know it's you. If you don't come, I'll understand. Jamie. Neil almost wished she wouldn't come. He hated the idea of her being checked out first by the group. It meant if her looks didn't measure up to standard, they would give her the thumbs down. And Neil instinctively knew she was a thumbs up girl.
Oh, Neil. You're really cute.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it takes him a while to like come around to like the level of being a good guy.
Yeah. Yeah. So she shows up at the mall.
Yeah.
With, I think Elizabeth and Enid drop her off. Mm-hmm. And she's waiting outside of the bookstore. And the boys are kind of watching from the balcony, I believe.
It's a mall, right? So it has like an atrium, and there's like it's a place where they can kind of hang over the side railing and like watch.
Yeah. I don't quite remember. Did they spot her right away before Neil goes
No, there's
over
like
there?
some hot blonde girl in a red t-shirt that they think is her for a second.
Oh, okay,
and
yeah.
then- and so we don't get it right away. Like, it's not until a little bit later that we find out what really happens. But it turns out that when they saw that it was Penny, Neil was like, oh, wow, okay. But all the boys started laughing and talking about how it would be terrible to date her because she was so studious.
Just a hard ass. A respected hard ass.
Yeah, a respected hard ass,
Yeah.
basically. Yeah, like they were doing an impression of her that basically made her like a school marm, kind of. Mm-hmm. And Neil was just like, he just felt awful, and she just waited there, and she waits for 45 minutes, she waits for like an hour, and she thinks, if I leave and he comes, then I won't find out who he is, but she cries on the bus home.
Poor Penny.
Yeah.
It was really mean.
It was so mean.
Like, Kirk and... Like, what a jerk.
Yeah, and as Elizabeth points out, like, it was a very brave thing for her to write this letter, and Elizabeth kind of pressured her into it, so I think she feels bad, too.
Right.
And invested. So then, back in English class, is the next time, is like, Neil knows now. So now Neil knows that Penny is Quasimodo. It's very romantic comedy. Like, this could be, like, the full plot. Cut out the Jessica and Lila thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's a little bit like Love, Simon, in a way. Like, they have this secret. Did you ever see that?
I didn't see it. No.
Well, it's just like, they're the, like, two guys that go to a high school and are, like, both secretly gay, but you don't know who on the other side, and like they just share messages to each other, and they finally agree to meet, and I guess it's not that much like Love, Simon, except for the whole secret message thing.
Yeah.
They're in English class reading Huckleberry Finn, and like Neil is watching her and seeing her, like the light has gone out of her eyes, and thinking to himself, that's my fault. Like, I broke Penny.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, you did, dude.
Yeah, Penny's not participating in class.
Yeah.
She doesn't have anything to say. She just is
Yeah. And suddenly Neil wants to, like, show that he's smart. It has this interesting thing I think a lot of, like, introverts could probably relate to.
Absolutely.
It describes him as, like, he always had something to say if he were called on, but, like, he never was one to pipe up in class. You know, it wasn't because he was dumb. It was just, like, that wasn't his style. But now he kind of wants to, because he wants to prove to Penny that he's smart. But Penny just sort of, like... He like approaches her after class. I think he's maybe thinking about asking her on a date. But she's just like so flustered that she can't even talk to him. And she's walking away beating herself up like, if I can't even talk to a boy that I know already, like I have no hope.
Penny.
And he's like,
turn around, Penny.
Yeah. And he's like, oh no, I broke her so bad that she can't even have a conversation with any boy now.
Yeah.
So he comes up with this plan that he's going to, like, secretly, without the other boys knowing, invite her as Jamie for, like, a makeup date and make up an excuse. There was an emergency. I'm so sorry. Meet me at the Dairy Burger.
Yes.
And Penny almost doesn't. You know, she's in a room with her electric typewriter. She's thinking, she's working, you know, drowning herself in her work. But finally she opens the letter and is like, I guess I'll go.
When does Elizabeth see... Kirk?
Oh, right.
Is that...
Right, after the mall, everybody's in the cafeteria, but Penny's not there.
Oh, she just overhears them.
Yeah,
right?
And she doesn't really seem to know what's up with Neil either, but she hears Kirk bragging about how they duped this girl. And she doesn't know. It's a kind of cool the way the book unfolds it, because it's like we hear this whole conversation.
Yeah.
And Tom McKay is the one who, like, chastises these guys a little bit, like, that seems like a shitty thing to do. And Kirk's like, whatever, dude, it was funny.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And Elizabeth and Enid overhear, and they're like, that bastard. That Kirk Anderson. He's so arrogant. He must be behind this.
Yeah.
And they come up with a plot for revenge.
Kirk and his comeuppance.
There's so much going on in this book.
There's a lot. There's a lot of different threads, you know? This is really like, you know.
A side effect of me having just read the book is that I feel like I remember it in, like, such detail that I may be overdoing it on the detail. But I remember that Erica Hall is the name of a 16-year-old model who's really sexy. And the Elizabeth and Jessica and Enid together get the idea to pretend that the Wakefields, the Erica is the Wakefield's cousin.
Wait, Jessica's not in on it, is she?
I think she is in on it, because it's like the one thing that Jessica and Elizabeth, like, can unite on is their hatred of Kirk Anderson.
Yeah.
And so they set him up with a fake date.
Yeah.
They basically give him a taste of his own medicine. But they actually try to dissuade him from doing the date. She might not like you. Well, of course she'll like you. Like, I don't think you should date her. She's willing to go on the date with you, but I don't think you should, because she's all... And then they list all these things that he is.
She's a little flaky. She's a little mean.
Yeah. She's arrogant. She's conceited. She only talks about herself.
Yeah.
She thinks she's the greatest. And he's like, sounds like a babe to me, you know?
Dreamboat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, meanwhile, Neil and Penny are meeting at the Dairy Burger. And, oh, it's so sweet, actually, when Neil sees her pull up, he's just like, there she is, you know, and he's so excited, and he's about to go into the Dairy Burger, and suddenly who should pull up? Inconveniently, coincidentally, but Kirk and Michael Harris, who is, I think, the Michael from Michael and Maria Gladiators. Just Kirk and Michael, but Kirk is the important one. Oh, and there was a moment earlier in the story when Kirk called Neil's name out, like in the cafeteria. Before we get to this big scene between Neil and Penny, which is preceded by a moment between Neil and Kirk, it's important to, like, get a full picture of Neil's mindset. At the very beginning of chapter 7, it opens with, "Hey, Freemount, over here." Kirk Anderson's voice rang out across the cafeteria. Neil couldn't help feeling pleased and a little smug that he'd been singled out so publicly. It almost made up for Friday afternoon. Almost.
I love this.
Now, what does that sound like to you?
This also sounds like a little queer. Just like a little, you know, like all these like triangulations of desire, you know, being kind of placed in, Jamie. Just,
So Neil is like, oh, Kirk wants to talk to me.
Yeah.
You know?
Absolutely.
Neil, Kirk is a jerk. It rhymes. That's how you can remember. But he does, yeah, it's complicated.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where does...
He's so handsome. It's complicated.
He's very handsome. Yeah. So it's like there's the physical... This is interesting. There's like the physical desire aspect, and then there's the like social, and then there's the like actual intellectual part.
Yeah. Connection between Neil and Penny.
Yeah. And Penny and Neil definitely seem like they have developed this like intellectual romance. Mm-hmm. So that's undeniable based on the text.
Right. Yes. Yes.
They also seem very like flush and flustered and desirous of the attention of these like popular, beautiful counterparts that they have.
Absolutely.
Back to the Dairy Burger. Fast forwarding back to the Dairy Burger. These guys pull up and they see Penny inside. Penny doesn't know what's going on yet. Penny doesn't know Neil is Jamie, so she's still in there waiting. Kirk turned quickly to face Neil, who felt his cheeks reddening. You're not meeting her, are you? Neil cursed himself silently for hesitating so long, and he felt his hands start to sweat. If he admitted he was meeting Penny, that would definitely be the end of his association with Kirk Anderson. With a pang of nostalgia, Neil remembered that feeling of belonging, of being admired. And then he remembered the feeling in English class on Tuesday when it looked as though Penny admired him too. He rubbed his hands on his jeans and glanced at the entrance. Penny was still there, but she had a worried frown on her face. It was 10 after 4. He was not going to stand her up again. And he doesn't.
Great work, Neil.
Yeah.
Great work. Way to stand up to the bully.
So he does what Jessica doesn't do. Like, Jessica doesn't have this moment of like, oh, remember how badly I treated Paolo.
Yeah, that's a great point. Neil has a soul.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, he goes inside and Penny's leaving and she like bumps right into him. And he's like, Penny, like, she's like about to cry. Like, she's so frustrated that he stood her up again. He's like, no, I'm Jamie. And she loves that. It's great. And they sit down. But of course, like any romantic comedy, it's like, if he doesn't tell her the truth and like, I guess if this were really a romantic comedy movie, they would have gotten together like more middle.
Yeah, yes.
And then by
the truth would have come out.
Yeah, and then they have to break up for a hot second, and then he has to prove to her that he really loves her.
Little 10 things I hate about you.
Yeah, and I guess that happens here for like a split second. But I have to read the climax. You always have to read the big climactic scene. For a moment, neither of them spoke. They just looked at each other, totally isolated and oblivious to the noisy after-school crowd that jammed the Dairy Burger. Video games buzzed and bleeped, girls called to each other, and boys formed tight conspiratorial huddles around tables. But Penny in Neil's booth was an island. Neither was aware of anything else. Then Neil broke the silence, his voice low. Penny, I wasn't going to tell you this, but I don't want to lie to you. I have too much respect for you not to be totally upfront about this. On Friday, I was there. A hot blush washed over Penny's face, but she tried to keep her voice calm and non-committal. Oh? Yeah, you see. Damn it, Penny. I hate to tell you this, but it all started as a joke. Some guys on the tennis team saw your ad and decided to write back as a group. Penny's heart gave a sickening lurch. A joke? It was a joke. She stared at the scratched Formica tabletop, trying to form a coherent thought. Neil cleared his throat. But when you started answering the letters, it wasn't a joke anymore, Penny. I really wanted to know who you were, but it was still just a game for the others. I didn't know what to do. She looked up finally and met his eyes. And Friday? She asked tonelessly. Neil looked away from her bleak gaze, but then he looked at her squarely. I can't excuse what I did, Penny. When they all saw it was you, they said you were too serious, and I can just imagine. Penny had a sour taste in her mouth. She can imagine all too well what the boys must have said when they saw her. Penny Ayala was obviously nobody's idea of a date. For a moment there was a heavy silence. I've never regretted anything more, Neil continued at last. I've never been so ashamed of myself as when I let those guys do my thinking for me. His voice quivered with intensity. His hands were clenched together, the knuckles white. I'm really sorry, he added. Penny drew a long breath. Well, now that you've apologized, I guess I'll go while I still have a little bit of my dignity left. Penny, please! He grabbed her hand as she tried to get up and looked at her imploringly. Please! I didn't just come here to apologize. I I want to... Slowly, Penny dropped her eyes from his steady, intense gaze and looked at the hand that clasped hers so tightly. It was warm and strong, and she could almost feel the emotion running through him and up into her arm and all through her body. You really mean it, don't you? She wondered aloud, shaking her head slowly from side to side. A harsh laugh escaped him. I really do. I really thought we had something in our letters, and I was hoping it could all be the same in person. But if you don't even want to talk to me at all, I wouldn't blame you. Penny felt herself smile in spite of herself. I think I could bear to talk to you, Neil. He returned her smile. You think so? Yes. So...
Neil
and
what
Penny.
What a model of accountability. You know?
Yeah,
a really
it's
genuine
nice.
apology.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, I mean, then there's, like... 3 more chapters of this book after that.
Yeah, right. You have to get at the, Kirk's comeuppance. And,
right. Because, of course, Erica Hall doesn't show up because she's not actually their cousin.
Yeah.
And Mr. Collins does come by and ask, he's like, may I cut in? Or like I would cut in, but I wouldn't want Neil to bite my head off. And Neil's like, no, it's okay, you can cut in. And Mr. Collins like, whoa, no, I was just kidding. That's basically how it goes.
Collins watch.
He's like, jitterbug. I said jitterbug. That's the fast dance.
It's fine.
Yeah.
Stepping back.
I'm paraphrasing, but that seemed like the general vibe.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I guess that's it. Except for there is one little thing that we didn't talk about, which is that earlier on in the book, Amy Sutton tells Jessica that she thinks that Bruce Patman might have a thing for her.
Amy's a cheerleader.
Amy is a cheerleader.
Mm-hmm.
Amy is, like, despicable.
Okay.
I mean, that's the low bar at this to clear in Sweet Valley.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the standards are low in Sweet Valley for like, a good... upstanding person, especially in this
models
book.
Of dating and communication.
Yeah. But Jessica's like, no way, Bruce and Regina are super serious. And Amy's like, well, we have this project together, so we'll see if he's really so serious, because we're going to be spending a lot of time together. And then Regina is at the dance by herself, and she's like, yeah, Bruce said he had something came up, but I wanted to come check it out. He's at home working on his, like, oral presentation.
Did they really say that?
Yes, they really do.
I love the little, Okay.
Yeah. And I mean, like, just as an insider, I can tell you that Bruce is really in love with Regina, and Amy is scheming, but, like, I don't know what possibly could have possessed him to skip the dance.
Yeah.
But I don't think that there's anything funny business going on between Amy and Bruce, but it doesn't really matter.
I don't know.
The damage is soon to be done, I'm afraid. Is there anything else about the book that story-wise that we didn't get to?
I think we got the big moments.
Well, that's great to hear, because now is the part of the podcast where I ask you, Megan.
Yes.
Are you a Jessica or an Elizabeth?
Oh, I think I'm a Penny.
Yeah.
I think I'm definitely a Penny.
You could go as Penny for Halloween.
Yeah.
And
I mean, I love her outfit. I mean, like, a little
Yeah.
queer, like, bookish, but did understand,
I love that.
high school desire. Yeah.
I love it. You're the first Penny, but this is the most Penny we've ever seen in any of these books.
Yeah. Penny or Elizabeth, could...
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, who are you?
I am an Elizabeth.
Okay.
I'm, like, such an Elizabeth.
I figured.
I mean, I totally relate to Penny, as I mentioned at the top of the episode. This whole thing, like, when she says to Neil, like, I don't know, it's just that I can relate to the feeling of, if I have a quality that somehow makes me undateable, whatever. Like, I'm not gonna change. I don't think that should be how it is. I like myself. But it's, like, this weird mix. It's, like, the way that, like, self-confidence and, like, self-doubt kind of mingle. So, I mean, I have described it many times as being, like, I have a lot of, I mean, this is maybe too personal now, but it's, like, I have a lot of self-regard, but I don't really expect other people to, like, see it. And especially when it comes to romantic stuff. And that's, I mean, I have wonderful relationships with a lot of guys, but it's rarely in my life. It's just has not often translated to like, I don't know. I can relate to the feeling. I guess I should just say I can relate to the feeling of seeming undateable for some reason.
Yeah.
Like, not even because, like, Penny has these moments where she thinks back on like, well, my dating record so far proves it, you know, and which it doesn't. But it's like, I could say that for sure.
Yeah.
You know, even if Penny is also doing something that I'm sure I'm guilty of, which is that she's putting a lot of pressure on what she wants her relationship to be, and then she's sort of not really fully, like, quote unquote, putting herself out there. That's, you know.
Yeah.
Because she wants it to be on her own terms, but, like, nobody else is, like, on the same page with her about what her terms are. Like, I can relate to all that.
Right, yeah.
But in short, I'm an Elizabeth.
Cool. Cool. Yeah.
Megan, thank you so much for being here with me.
Thank you so much.
I have a few more questions that I'll ask you in the extra drama bonus episode.
Perfect.
If you'll stay for just a few more minutes, you need to rush off to your room. Well, thank you so much for being here. Gladiators, thank you for listening. And I hope that this has been a suitable distraction for you. It's been a great distraction for me, and maybe I speak for Megan.
Yes, this was like first day of quarantine read. That's perfect.
Wonderful.
Perfect. Yeah.
And I hope people are staying healthy in mind, body, and spirit, as they say. Send me an email if you want, sweetvalleydiaries@me.com. Now is a great time to follow Sweet Valley on Twitter or Sweet Valley Diaries on Instagram. As always, you can go to sweetvalleydiaries.net and read a whole bunch of more stuff about Sweet Valley Diaries and Sweet Valley High and stuff. What do you think? That's my pitch. All right, hang in there, everybody. A listener recently said on Twitter, like, every time you say, it's like I'm reading the whole book and I can't read the whole book. I just want to be like, just read the whole book.
Yes.
Which I do enjoy the readings, but I think it's more effective than any conversation we can have and, like, really getting across, like, why these books, like, why are we reading them?
Oh, yeah.
And also how crazy they are.